Alright, so we're going to be using the Siren FPV flight controller for this build. These guys are based out of the Bay Area, and this is the flight controller with the built-in VTX and OSD combo, and that's the recommended flight controller to use for the 3-inch Rasvelg, just because the stack is pretty tight, and this just keeps it really nice and clean. So we're going to use this guy. And then my buddy over at Drone Eclipse, Scott, hooked me up with the Cicada 20 amp DLLES 4-in-1. So that's another recommended component of the 3-inch build we're doing today. And for the motors, we're going to be using the Brother Hobby T1 1407 3600 kV from Drone Eclipse. These are probably the best motors out right now for a 3-inch build, highly recommended. And what else do we have? So we're just going to be using the standard HS1177 camera. That is probably one of the coolest things about this frame, is that it fits a full-size camera and actually protects it. So the frame is going to come with the carbon, obviously, and you're going to get some I believe these are 30mm screws, some nuts, a bunch of rubber grommets for vibration dampening, and then some standoffs. And then it's going to come with these guys as well, which you have to use in between the motors and the frame. Don't forget to throw these guys on there. And what else? We're going to be using an old XSR I had laying around. And we're going to need a pigtail also for the Siren, so you're going to need an old pigtail, preferably 90-degree angle, and we're just going to actually clip this guy and then kind of solder it onto the flight controller. And you're also going to need a Polulu 5-volt step down to power the flight controller off of the 4-in-1 ESC. And oh yeah, the canopy. So this is the canopy I was talking about. Fits a full-size camera. This one's actually nylon, so it's really, really strong, but it's got some give to it. I actually dyed this with the RIT dye, RIT dye. It comes in kind of a white, clearish tone, and it gives you the option to dye it whatever color you like. It came out really good. And then the camera. This one I believe is for a 2.5 lens, so I'm just going to throw this in there just to show you guys really quick. There's actually some holes inside of the canopy. The camera just slides right into those. Well, it's a lot easier if you have a lens, but let's see. Basically it just locks into place there, and then you can change the angle as you need. Pigtail comes right out of the top hole right there. So yeah, let's get started. We're going to start off with the flight controller, get the regulator solder onto it, and then solder on all the wires we're going to need coming off of that guy. Alright, so we're going to need 3 of these pins, so just take some straight pin headers, and then we'll go ahead and clip the 3 off of this, like so. And then we're going to stick these guys into this section, the 5-volt and the bat negative and positive. So I think what we'll do is we'll solder it on this way. Yeah, we'll do that. Get that stuck on there. And then we're going to remove the black plastic pieces, and that's gonna give us a nice clean smooth surface on the bottom of this guy. So we'll just slide that right in there, and then once we get one of these soldered on, it'll be a little easier to position it. Okay. Okay. So now what we can do is just heat these up and get those soldered on there. Alright, now this little plastic piece should be just enough space to clear that top. So we'll clean out these holes and then we'll slide those in. Looks pretty good. Cool. Okay. So now we'll just tap the underside of this with some solder. Alright, and then we can just clip these guys off and that should be good. Just be careful when you're clipping not to damage this guy here, so that'll kill the board. Alright, that looks good. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is make our pigtail. So it's going to connect right here. Antenna's in the middle, ground, 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 ground. So we'll just kind of measure it out so that it sits. Let's see, the flight controller's going to be like on top of this. So that should be good. It's okay to cut it a little bit long, just in case you mess it up. So let's clip that guy. And then very carefully we're going to remove some of this coating here. Just make sure you don't cut through the layer of wire coating around the actual antenna. Alright, so once we have that, we'll kind of spread this out. And you want to spread it out into 4 parts. So this is similar to what you would do with the XSR antenna if you're replacing that. Just gotta get the ground wire. This is the ground wire kind of surrounding the antenna. So we're just trying to make it into 4 little parts. Just tap those with some solder so they stay in position. Okay, now we need to expose the actual antenna, which is inside of this inner coating here. So very carefully, just clip off the tip of this. Yeah, it's a lot easier if you have a razor blade. There we go. Okay. And then just go in there and make sure that you get rid of all this ground wire that could potentially touch the antenna, because we don't want that. Okay, then we'll tin this actual antenna tip. Okay, now we're going to connect it to the flight controller. So we'll tin the flight controller, tin all 5 of the pads here, the antenna, the grounds, and then flip her over, and we'll do the same on this side. So first thing we'll do is we'll solder on the antenna portion of this. Like so. And then we'll get these grounds on there, just kind of bend them as you heat them. It's a lot harder than it looks. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can get that one on right now. And then we'll go to the other side. Okay, we got 2 on. Let's see if we can we got 3 on. We just gotta get this guy. Got all 4 sides of the ground connected. And we have the antenna on there too. Now we're going to need to power the flight controller off of the 4-in-1 voltage out straight from the battery. So it's going to come into here, and then the regulator is going to turn into 5 volts to power the flight controller. So just grab some silicone wire you have laying around. We'll just cut it longer than we're going to need, just for now, and then we can trim it when we figure out how long it actually has to be. So we're going to use black and white just to kind of keep with the color of the dip in the frame. So we'll just tin the tip of this. So this will be our power positive, so we'll just tap that onto here. And then we'll do the same thing with our ground. Alright, so that's going to go to our battery, power the flight controller. So now what we can do is we can take our 4-in-1 and actually wire up the ESCs onto the flight board. So let's see. The signal is on the inside of the board. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's see. Let's get this oriented right. Signal for motor 1. Signal for motor 2. Motor 4. And motor 3. So if you look at the 4-in-1 ESC, you'll see signal 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're going to do is this is going to be stacked underneath, like so. So let's see. Motor 1 is going to be right here, so we can keep that nice and short. Okay, and then we're just going to remove these power and ground wires because we're not going to use those. So just take some tweezers or a razor blade and kind of pop those little clips up, and then they should slide right out. Sweet. Alright, so I think next thing we should do is kind of mount everything up and get the motors soldered onto the signal pads for the ESCs, and then do our pigtail, and then we'll start doing the stack. Alright, so at this stage we'll go ahead and do our pigtail. So probably need about 1.5 inches. Should be plenty of length. Just trim those off, and we'll just use the existing wires that come on the 4-in-1 ESC, and then we'll just strip off a few millimeters of the coating. Just kind of twist it up, and then we're going to slide over our heat shrink. Actually, let's heat this up first. So we'll tin this guy. Okay. And then we'll just put our XT60 here in the clamp, and then we'll go ahead and solder on the pigtail here. Okay. While we're here, let's just pre-tin these motor pads. So when we get to that stage, we're ready to go. Okay, so it's gonna sit on here like so. And then it's gonna sit right on top of this guy. Some spacers. And then the flight controller is gonna go on top of that. So let's make sure we got the wiring correct. Okay, motor 1, 2. Cool, that should fit. Okay. Alright, so we're actually going to switch to Spectrum receiver because my XSR is broken. So this will work, and I'll show you guys how we can hook that up. So that'll be cool. And then we're actually going to add some little LEDs I had laying around that'll fit perfectly in this frame on the back arms, because when you're racing around this little guy, it's really hard to see. So I figured I'd give my fellow pilots a little courtesy so they can see me when I pass by them, or when they're about to pass me in a tunnel so they don't rear me. So we'll take the power straight off of the 4-in-1 to power these LEDs. 14 volts. So what we're going to do is just take let's see, maybe we can take it off the bottom here. Yeah, that'll work perfectly. Okay. So let's go ahead and tin this side up. Alright, and we're just going to connect 4 wires and just kind of leave them hanging out until we get to later stages in the build. So we'll just tin these up, and then we will solder them onto the power and ground on the 4-in-1. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. Next thing I want to do is hook up my Spectrum satellite receiver. So if you see here, there's a little 5 volt, 3 volt. We need to bridge the 3 volt to the middle pad so that the UART1 sends out 3 volts. If you're using a FreeSky, you'd want to bridge the 5 volt with the middle one. And then we're going to use the same UART1. And then, looking at this diagram, we have, let's see, so it's going to be like something like this. So we're going to use the middle 3 on the bottom row. Signal, power, ground. So this guy's going to sit right here. So we're not going to need that much length, so we'll try to keep it nice and clean. We'll go right about there. Trim these guys. Alright, then we'll just tin these guys and slide them into the UART1 port. So we'll just heat up one side and then slide it in. And when you're doing this, just make sure that you don't get the little coating, plastic coating. Make sure it doesn't melt inside of the hole, because that'll cause a bad connection sometimes. And then we'll put the the power in next. This is going to be 3 volts. And lastly, the ground. So it should look like this. Let's focus in there. Nice and clean. Alright, and then that's going to plug in down there. Perfect. Okay. I think at this step we can go ahead and mount the motors so we can start measuring out how much length we need. So we'll just use the screws that come with them. And these look like M2, I'm guessing. Sweet. Alright, so on that last motor I actually forgot to put these little TPU spacers in there, so let's make sure we do that. Don't forget that step. So just clear out the holes. Oops. Alright, and that's going to go right in between the motor and the frame. Alright, so we'll repeat that for the next 3 motors, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so we got all 4 motors on. We have the TPU kind of gasket thingy in there. So now what we should do is, I'm going to cover up the motor wires with some heat shrink. Some white heat shrink just to kind of keep it nice and clean. So I'm just going to cut this out to 4 lengths. Alright, so I'm going to go heat shrink this, and then we'll be back and we'll start soldering on the signal wires to the 4-in-1 ESC. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up the hardware packet that comes with the Falcon Multirotor's kit here. Let's see, so we're going to need these right now. Let's see. Okay. So the 2 longer ones are for the back, the 2 shorter ones are for the front. So we're going to need 2 of each. So we'll take the 2 longer ones and we'll put those in for the back side. So hit that guy. Okay, at this point I'm probably going to want to put a lens into this camera, so I'll be right back and grab one of those. Alright, so we'll put the proper lens in here. We'll stick it in. So if you pinch the canopy from the top and bottom, it'll allow you to slide the lens in there. Alright, and then it's snapped into place. Sweet. So now we can start kind of threading this thing through. So I think we're going to have to use a driver to get this in. Alright, so we'll get these in and then we'll move on to the 4-in-1 ESC. Okay, so we have all 4 of the longer screws in. And then these are just going to go in here and then on the flight controller. So when we're working on it, we can just kind of pop the hood up. Don't worry about breaking it because it's made out of nylon, so it should be okay. So let's go ahead and get the 4-in-1. We got to plug this guy in first into the receiver. Let's see. And then we'll just kind of leave this guy hanging off to the side. Actually, you know what? At this point, we should probably solder on the signal wires to the flight controller. Now we can put the 4-in-1 on. So we got a little problem here. I'm not going to be able to get the flight controller mounted. Let's see, because the receiver wires are too short. Alright, let's fix that really quick. Okay, so once we have that on, we're going to take these spacers. There's 4 spacers here. And we'll throw that on top of the 4-in-1. Right, so it looks like I need to trim some of this TPU on this little mount here. Let's see. So I think what's happening is, let's see if we can get this guy off. This little chip here is blocking it from going all the way down, so we're just gonna take the soldering iron and just kind of melt this back a little bit. Very carefully. Definitely don't want to inhale this stuff. Looks good. Okay, now we can tighten this down. Bam. Alright, nice and clean. Sitting flush on the TPU. Looks good. One thing I realized I forgot to solder on the camera plug, so we're going to do that really quick. So let's see, it's right there. Okay. So we got the signal for the camera, the 5-volt, and the ground. So that looks like that'll reach. Alright, so now we can solder on the signal, or the motor wires to the ESC pads here. Alright, so at this point we can zip tie these down. And we'll put the LED on too. So we got motor 1. It's going to be on the back left. And we're not going to worry about the order because we'll go ahead and go into BLHeli and fix that when we get to that point. Okay, motor 2 is going to come back here. Alright, so it's looking good. Motor 3. So it's not completely clean, but we can hide all that wiring with the flight controller on top. Alright, so this is a really important step. We're going to actually have to use, let's see, 12 total. So 2 underneath and 1 on top of the flight controller. Alright, now let's see if this guy was measured correctly. Ooh, it's gonna be close. Whew, okay, that's good. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll take another grommet, these little guys, put that on top of the flight controller, and then we'll take these bolts and we'll start securing it down. Okay, we'll leave the rear up for now, but it's basically going to look like this. Bam. Okay, cool. Let's see, the camera cable looks like it'll reach. So now we can go ahead and power our LEDs. So we're going to need ground. Do the ground first. It's this guy, so we'll go ahead and thread it through the zip tie hole. Okay, so we'll get that guy on here. Alright, so now we need to power the flight controller. So we'll go ahead and go through here, and let's see, let's measure that out. So we're just going to connect this straight off of the battery power. Okay, so the flight controller is now powered straight off of there. This guy's going to sit just like that. So I think we can plug it in, see if everything's working. Just grab an antenna. And then we'll take our smoke stopper, just in case we have a short anywhere. Alright, let's see.